More often than not, any school that is a visual or performing arts school will require a creative portfolio or an audition as part of your admissions requirements. There may be other admissions requirements, there may not be other admissions requirements. That's going to vary school to school, but more often than not, the most important thing that you can submit for an art school is your portfolio. So for visual arts, when we're looking at filmmaking, producing, screenwriting, cinematography, photography, 3D animation, game design, documentary filmmaking, and broadcast journalism, that's when you're going to submit a creative portfolio. And I'll go into details for each one of those disciplines shortly. But when you're looking at performing arts, for New York Film Academy, it's acting for film as well as musical theater. There are many schools out there that also have dance that may require a dance audition, but really work directly with the admissions advisor at whichever school you're interested in, and they will help to guide you. But these are just some helpful tips of how you can start to prepare for an art school. So filmmaking, we are the New York Film Academy, so the most desirable, I think, program is filmmaking. And the question that I get more than any other question is, how should I submit my film? So when you're putting together a creative portfolio for a filmmaking school, of course, if you have a film, we would like to see the film that you have made, whether it's something that you did with your friends, whether it's something that you worked on at school, or it is a little bit more of a professional video. We'd want to see whatever you have created. Usually we're looking for 3 to 10 minutes in length. If for some reason you have created and shot a full feature-length film, unfortunately we wouldn't be able to watch that, but we would be able to take snippets and watch what we can. It can be in progress, so you don't have to worry about it being perfectly edited. If the sound isn't perfect, if your lighting isn't perfect, that's okay. What we're wanting to see is the ideas and the stories that you have to tell. So you're coming to us to learn about the editing and how to make lighting and all of that work, but what we can't share with you is your ideas. So more often than not, the ideas are what we want to see. If you have shot in a group setting, it's always best to let us know exactly what you have done in the part. So usually it's credits at the end, whether you're an AD, a gaffer, a boom operator, a writer, a producer, a cinematographer. Let us know what you have done. If you don't have credits, that's all right. You can just kind of give us a small description of what you had done with the film. And as we are all international here, if the film is in another language, it does need to have English subtitles. We do often have people who submit films that do not have narrative at all, and that's fine as well. That being said, there may not have been a chance for any student to shoot a film. They may not have had the equipment or the time. So what we're really looking for is anything that shows creativity, shows the ideas, shows the stories that they want to tell. So we'd be looking at paintings, drawings, sculptures, set design, mixed media, photographs, anything that shows creativity on, visually of some kind. When you are submitting for a filmmaking portfolio, of course, the visual work is going to be the most important, but it does help drastically for you to have a written sample as well. So the written sample really could be anything that is from an original screenplay or fiction piece that you have written. So that can include poems, short stories, scripts, creative writing, anything that you've done within that realm. You can also include an original short story or an article or a critical studies essay examining a literary or cinematic work. So we do have a number of students who will review critically very famous movies, also plays, screenplays, TV series, And most certainly you can submit that as a written sample. And then of course, if you have a treatment of or an outline of film, we would be looking for that as well. When you're going to hear me say this quite a bit during this presentation, but the thing to remember the most is that everything will come back to story. What we want to see is the storytellers and the process that you have gone through to get your ideas out there. So articulating the story is going to be the most important. What is your contribution to the storytelling process? Were you the writer? Were you the producer? Were you the cinematographer? And really, when it comes to filmmaking, we're looking for quality over quantity. There are many students who may have 15, 30-second shots that they shot with their friends after school, or there can be 1 3-minute film that took a little bit more time, and we would definitely want to see the quality over the quantity. We're looking for artistic voice. How do you see the world? Why is that different from someone who lives in Brazil or Canada or Russia? Take your background and who you are and living in Asia and share that. That's what's so exciting right now. Say something personal with your work. Make it different, make it personal. When you're using your visual style, we're definitely going to look at, true cinematic choices. So, cinematography will come in importance here, but you want to make conscious decisions about camera placement. You want to use all the elements of composition to create your images. But again, it's all about the story. It's about how you tell the story and how you connect with the audience in order to do so. So moving on from filmmaking, you go into producing, which is more the business side of filmmaking, where this is where you are involved from pre-production, production, post-production. So for New York Film Academy especially, we're looking for written work when you're proving for producing. So of course it can be an excerpt from an original screenplay or fiction piece. It can be a short story. It can be a critical studies essay. It can be a treatment of a film. That would be what we would be looking for the most. But when you're going into producing, you really need to show your authentic interests. What is your vision? How are you going to collaborate? What is your communication and organization? Producing is the biggest job on a film set, so organization is going to be very, very key. So the originality as well as organization of ideas is something that you want to be very clear about. We want to see how you are taking specific concepts and making it clear to the viewer and director and actor of what they're expected to do. So when you are presenting as a producing portfolio, you want to make sure that the material is creative and it looks professional. You want to consider it more of a presentation than a submission. During the producing program, you learn quite a bit about pitching, and you'll learn very quickly how to pitch, which is more or less what your portfolio will be for producing. Moving into screenwriting, of course, if you've written some type of script, we would be very interested in reading that. The thing to remember is that if you don't have the proper grammar or layouts or vocabulary that is very specific to screenwriting, that's okay. It can differ from country to country. So if you have a script that you have written in whichever layout is most common in your country, that's fine. Again, we're looking for story. If you have not written a proper screenplay, again, short stories, critical essays, treatments, get your ideas on paper now. Every single movie will start with the script. It's the most important part. The story, again, is the most important thing that you can have as part of a visual and performing arts school. So you really want to take your personality and put it on the page. Again, the way that you grew up is going to be very different than the way someone in California or Canada or Brazil or Venezuela grew up. So take what you know as yourself and put it on the paper. Don't try to write about someone living in Africa unless you're somebody who has lived in Africa. Make sure that it's something very, very specific to you. So again, show your unique voice, very specific point of view. The other very important part is the characters. It's just as important as the plot. You want to give them personalities. You want to give them goals. You want to make those characters come alive and make them have a personal connection with the reader. You always need to remember about conflict. No story would be complete without conflict. The more, the better. Again, you want to proofread, but if your grammar, vocab, and layout is not exactly what they use in Hollywood, that's fine. What we're looking for is spelling, stuff like that. But again, be you. Take what you know, take the stories that you grew up with and put those on a page. When we're getting into cinematography, this is the most artistic part of the filmmaking process. This is really taking the director's vision and making it come to life. So with cinematography, if you do have a reel that you have put together, most cinematographers will have a reel of pieces that they have cut and edited and put together into a reel. Of course, we would want to see that. Again, if not, we're not expecting you to be professional as of right now. So you can submit 1 to 2 live action or fiction, nonfiction, film or video submissions. Again, try to keep them somewhat short. There are a lot of submissions for every single art school in the world, so it's very hard to watch a 30-minute video for every single student. You can also submit storyboards and visual designs as well as photographs. Everything can start with a photograph. So cinematography is really where you want to be super selective of the images that you are presenting. You want to make sure that they are both technically and aesthetically successful. So you got to be careful with your exposure. Is it in focus? Is there a strong composition? You want to make sure that you're connecting with the viewer. You want to have them look at a scene and start to ask questions. Where is this? What time of day? Why is the character here? And again, if you have shot in a group, you want to clearly state what role you played in creating that film. If we're looking at photography, you can hear beautiful New York City in the background. For the photography program, usually it's 10 to 15 images. You can print them, but especially right now with COVID, it's best just to put them, you know, in JPEGs and a hyperlink. That's what we would, that was what would be the most easy for us to look at. And it is helpful to have an accompanying description that contextualizes the submission. So where were you? What were you trying to focus on? What kind of camera did you use? Did you edit it at all? What were you trying to convey? Hopefully, if we look at a picture, we can look at that and understand each one of those questions. But sometimes that's not possible, so you certainly can always use a descriptive paragraph. The other thing to remember is that it doesn't have to be a professional, expensive camera. The cameras that are on the phones that we have now are 700 times better than the cameras that I used when I was in school. So taking pictures on your phone is absolutely fine. But what you want to do is think about what each picture means and then submit your strongest work. The other important thing about photography is that you don't want to choose random images that you just think are strong. You want to make them create a whole story. So, you know, if you love shooting sunsets, show us sunsets. You know, we want to see what you love the most, but don't show us sunsets and then a soccer game and then some girl modeling. We want to see pictures that will go well together. And then you don't want to write about each image individually. Again, it's a cohesive story that you're trying to tell. And then think about how you're going to lay out your work. What photo should be first? What photo should be last? You know, you have to think about how the photographs are going to tell a story. Moving on from photography, we have 3D animation and visual effects. Very, very popular right now. So you really can submit anything that is showing any type of art, drawing, paintings, cartoons, comics. conceptual illustrations, graphic renderings, digital images. If you are going for visual effects, we want to see the before image and then the after image. If you have created 3D models, if you have created sculptures or any other visual designs that shows your creative abilities, that's what we want to see for 3D animation and VR. VFX. If you have created games, or you can submit any of the links that you have created, anything along those lines. But what we're looking for 3D animation is your overall artistic ability. Obviously, yes, we want to hear the story that you want to tell, but we want to see the drawings, the sculptures, you know, how well you as an artist are conveyed. So you do want to show your characters in motion. You want to give them expressive poses and character designs. You want to show rendering of any of your recent artwork, which can be, you know, a direct observation of the life that you see right now, or it can be something that's created in your mind. And it is also helpful to show a character development sketch. And then visual and original pieces are really what we're looking for. Again, artistic ability is extremely important here, but there's also the story element as well. Game design, very similar to 3D animation and visual effects. We would accept any pieces of art or any pieces of game-related work. The game-related work can be Unity prototypes, it can be game modifications, it can be GitHub profiles, code samples, paper game prototypes, level maps, skill trees, system diagrams, anything along those lines is what we would be looking for, is considered game-related work. And then it is very helpful to show your business side of your mind when you're submitting for game design, whether that's a game design business plan or marketing one sheets, anything along those lines is what's very helpful for game design. The important thing at this moment is if you don't have the exact software that we use, that's okay. You can, again, show sketches and 3D models and level maps and photos. Everything really is appropriate. It's up to you. If the game is submitted, include a short gameplay video from the game so that we're aware of what happens during the game while it's played. Once again, show who you are. You're a person who creates. You came up with this entire game. What makes it unique? And then opposite from filmmaking, this is where we're looking for quantity over quality. So we are looking for multiple smaller games are better than one large game because it'll give us a little bit of an idea of who you are and what is on your mind. So lastly, if we're looking at broadcast journalism, you can show any type of short video in which you have played an important role. If you were the reporter, if you were the interviewer, if you wrote a newspaper piece, if you have a collection of still images, anything along the news line is what we're looking for. Very importantly, the broadcast journalism, it doesn't need to be polished, it doesn't need to be sophisticated, but what we are looking for is an editorial voice. We want to make sure that you can tell a story maintaining accuracy and balanced reporting. Everyone in the world right now has heard fake news. So we want to make sure that the story you're telling, it has a unique perspective, but it's accurate and it's even keeled on both sides. So really for broadcast journalism, I've had students who have also submitted radio shows that they've hosted. So it's a wide variety of things. That will cover the creative portfolio part. Now we're moving into more of auditioning. So any school, whether it's acting, musical theater, dance, you will have to audition. And each school will have different audition requirements. Again, I will go over what New York Film Academy is looking for, but it is widely used. So for New York Film Academy, exactly, we are looking for 2 60 to 90 second monologues. And a lot of times people ask, what is a monologue? That is a speech that one character is given. It's not a conversation between two characters. It's one character giving a speech. We personally are looking for contemporary pieces, so anything really from the 1960s up. There are some schools that may ask for Shakespeare. We're not looking for that. And really, it's best to be contrasting. Show us your funny side, show us your dramatic side. And it can be from any published play, screenplay, film, TV series, but what it cannot be is self-written. You cannot write your own monologue. When you're looking for pieces to perform, when you're looking for the acting program, you want to find a piece that feels like you, something that you can relate to, that you understand. Make sure that it's age and gender appropriate. If you are an 18-year-old girl, you don't want to play a 90-year-old man. It's just not believable. You have to be able to play something you can relate to. You want to choose monologues that are active. A character is clearly pursuing something with another character. So the questions below you'll see are what we're looking for. Who and where am I? What does my character want? What is the obstacle to getting what I want? How am I going to get it? What is my character feeling? And then what happened right before the monologue started? So when you're choosing monologues, you don't want to read just the monologue. It's helpful to either watch the whole film or read the whole play so you really understand that character, not just the moment of the monologue, but what they've been fighting for this whole story. When we're going to musical theater, for New York Film Academy, we do require 2 musical theater songs that are contrasting, usually 60 to 90 seconds a piece, and they must have a backing track. We do not accept any a cappella work. And then we do require 1 monologue, again, 60 to 90 seconds, but this is required to come from a stage play, not a musical or a screenplay. So when you're looking for musical theater, you need to choose pieces that you will love to perform. You need to make sure that the songs are in your musical key so that you sound relaxed, you sound vibrant, you sound expressive. And this is where you really need to let your personality and creativity come alive. It's called musical theater. So while you're singing, don't overact, but you want to show that you are acting out the song that you're feeling. And again, pick music that plays to your vocal range and your type. So you want to ask the same questions. Who is the character? What are the circumstances? Where is this song taking place? When is the song taking place? And why is it so important right now that I can't just talk these words, I have to sing these words? These are the things that you want to be able to convey when you're doing musical theater. There are multiple ways to submit an audition. Before COVID, New York Film Academy and many other art schools would travel the world and hold live auditions and portfolio reviews. Students would come to us and audition with us in our campus in either New York or Los Angeles, but it's also the 21st century, so it's very simple to just record yourself and send it in via a Vimeo or YouTube link. But there's many things to remember when you are recording your audition. The first, you have to memorize your pieces. You can't be sitting and reading off of a script. No way. You have to make sure that it's memorized. It's very helpful for you to slate your name and the name of the piece at the beginning of your audition. It helps because there isn't just one person who's going to be reviewing your piece. It's going to be passed around an entire department. So saying your name, saying the name of the piece is going to make it much clearer who you are. When we're talking about eyeline, you want to not look directly at the camera, but maybe offset it just a little bit so that we can still see your whole face, but you're not directly looking at us. You can choose to stand or sit. You also want to think about the frame. Clearly right now, this is a very close-up frame. What we would be looking for really is anything from your knees up. And then sometimes your entire body. Even if you're further away from the camera, we want to be able to see how your whole body is expressing. You don't want to have a background distraction. We've had many videos where dogs are barking and babies are crying, and it happens, but it's very distracting. You also want to think about what you're wearing. You don't want to have logos on your t-shirts. You don't want to have, you know, hats or anything that's going to hide your face. You should not really use props of any kind, except if it's something like a phone and you need to be on your phone. That's okay, but you don't need to have, you know, a massive backdrop to express what you are trying to get across. When it comes to musical theater, test your vocals to make sure that they're coming through clearly with the music. You don't usually want to have your music playing from the computer or from your phone, because it's going to drown out your voice. It's helpful to put your speaker a little bit further away than where the camera is set. And do not use a microphone. Nobody will accept that, because it very well could be auto-tuned or something along those lines. The biggest thing to remember when you are submitting an audition is that we want to see you. What happens more often than not is students will choose a monologue from a very famous movie. The Dark Knight, the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker is very often performed, and it's a great piece, but many students will just do it exactly how Heath Ledger performed it. And that's not what we're looking for. We know how Heath Ledger has done it. Now we want to see what you can do. So you want to make sure that you are acting the piece and you're not imitating a character from the film that's already been done. Take the piece, make it your own, and then show us how you interpret this monologue. That's something that's very, very important, and I try to be very clear about with anyone who is auditioning for me. Lastly, just again, be yourself. You are extremely unique. Your story is much more important and much more exciting than you might think. You know, I grew up in a small town in Colorado. I thought it was very boring, but now when I tell people in New York City, it's a whole different story. So take your story, write what you know, be who you know, and choose something that you have a personal connection to. That's the best way you're going to come across in any artistic work, is making sure you have a personal connection. Clearly, you want to show your best work. And it could be that maybe you don't have anything that I've talked about, but now's the time to start creating. Pick up your phone, start shooting, start writing, start getting your ideas on paper or on camera so that we can see it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we need to see your artistic abilities. Again, make the piece your own, act, and don't imitate what you've already seen. Take yourself and make yourself become, you know, the reason why people are in the entertainment industry. So that's my very brief overview of anything that has to do with visual and performing arts, creative portfolios or auditions. I would like to open it up to questions if anyone would like to. You certainly can write in the chat box. You can, if you wanted to take yourself off, you can certainly do that as well. Yeah, I will say as well, don't be embarrassed. Don't hold back because you think something's not good or something isn't perfect. Nobody is judging you. What we're looking at really is your artistic abilities. All of us who work at New York Film Academy, we are artists. Anyone who's looking at any of your work in any other school are artists. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to share your art with other artists and have constructive criticism or, you know, take notes. And that's really what we're here for. There's a question of, do you have a platform to upload portfolios? That's a very good question. More often than not, now we have students who will create their own websites. And then within the website, they will be able to have links to their visual work, their written work, if they have any performance work. That's one way to do it. You can also upload any visual work to Vimeo, YouTube, Google Drive. But when you are uploading to Vimeo or YouTube, make it an unlisted link so not everyone can see your work. And it's also if you are going to send an audition, that's the other way to do it. Record it, Google Drive, or Vimeo or YouTube. Again, make it unlisted. But if you're submitting visual work, it's so easy now to be able to create a website. And when people are looking at your work, again, it's not just one person, it's going to be passed around to many people in the department. So having just one link is going to make it so much easier than having multiple links to multiple pieces of work. Okay. So the question is, I heard that some in the US Film School, the portfolio is just a 5-minute short film. And for England, you have to collect every single film clip you made during your high school year. Is that true? Or both needs to gather a bunch of work that's filmed and send them to the school official? I can't speak for schools in England. I have traveled and I've been next to them at fairs, and we seem to have a very similar audition and admissions requirements. But again, each school is going to be different, so you would want to check that. What I would say to you is take all of the work that you've been doing in your high school years, review it, and take the stuff that you feel is the strongest, that really shows who you are. Again, we are a different, school than other schools in England, but we would rather see one really good piece of art than 17 so-so pieces of art. So it's going to be very different per school, but it's more often than not that you're going to want quality over quantity.
Or Lizzie, can you talk a little bit about the situation at the New York Film School right now? Like how are you doing with your visual classes or?
I will answer that. I'm going to answer this other question. How much weight do test scores ACT and SAT have on your portfolio? At New York Film Academy specifically, we do not require SAT or ACT or a certain GPA to be accepted into our school for international students. There's times more often than not where someone who's very artistic may not be super great at math, and we don't care if you don't know geometry. That's not going to affect your artistic ability. So we don't require SAT or ACT. We do, however, require that you graduate from high school. And there are times when you can receive a merit-based award for a better GPA. So keep trying hard, please. Yeah, so we don't require any of that. We do require letters of recommendation and statement of purpose, and depending on your country, we will require either a TOEFL or an IELTS exam. But again, you can work with an admissions advisor who can help you with that whole process at any school, not just New York Film Academy. Another question, during study, is there any required internship, and where do they usually do internships? That's a very good question. At New York Film Academy specifically, it's an extremely intensive program. You are in class Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and you're shooting on nights and weekends. And we do it like that because it's our job to train you to walk out of New York Film Academy onto a film set, be prepared, be professional. And that's the way it is. When I was on film sets many moons ago, a 13-hour day was a good day. So for New York Film Academy, we do not offer on-campus employment, so you cannot work while you're studying with us. And in the entertainment industry, internships aren't usually as important as the work that you produce. So for our producing program, there is an internship component, But for most of our other programs, being able to create work and graduate with a larger reel of work and show what you have created is going to be more important than the internship itself. All of the teachers that are teaching you are current industry professionals. You will have business classes as well as artistic classes, so you will learn how to become successful in this industry. But internships, especially in Hollywood, are very notorious for go get coffee, make copies. It's not a creative work. So it's more important to start creating and making work than to have an internship. Let's see. After you graduate, how is the employability? Great question. This is the entertainment industry. No one can guarantee a job, so be very hesitant if you have a school that will guarantee you a job after you have finished working. What people are looking for, again, in this industry is what you've created, how many film sets you've been on, what equipment have you used, what software are you using, and because of the intensity of New York Film Academy and how much you create, for instance, in our filmmaking program, within the first year, students will write, shoot, direct, edit, learn sound and cinematography on 8 of their own films, and then they work on 28 others. So in 1 year, you're making 36 films. So just being able to have that as part of your reel is going to make you more employable than it would, you know, if you shot 1 film. But really how it is in this whole industry is who you know. And there are wonderful ways at most US art schools to learn from people who have been in the industry. New York Film Academy has a very vast guest speaker series where we've had Steven Spielberg and Al Pacino and Ron Howard and huge names within the industry, but also names that you've never heard of that are more important on a film set than Al Pacino. So you're able to ask questions and get answers from those people as well. But it's the entertainment industry, so nothing can be guaranteed, but what we're going to do is give you the tools to make yourself the strongest applicant out there. Okay.
So I think another question is that, can portfolios be submitted in PDF form?
Absolutely. That would be just fine. PDF is absolutely not a problem. For schools in the United States, most schools you will study on an F1 student visa. New York Film Academy requires an F1 student visa. And with the F1, you are eligible for something called optional practical training, or OPT, where you can stay in the United States for either 1 year or 3 years, depending on the school, and work within the entertainment industry. So if you're not able to work while you study, you do get that 1 year or 3 years after you've completed your studies to work full-time in the industry to really improve your CV, to learn what you need to, and then bring home what you have learned and start changing the industry in your home country. Another question is, how long does it take to finish the academy? That's a very good question too. New York Film Academy itself, we have multiple lengths of programs. So we have multiple disciplines, which were just what I had talked about, but we have programs that are everywhere from kids and teens summer camps to 4- and 8-week workshops, 1- and 2-year conservatory programs, and then an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's degree. The bachelor's degree at New York Film Academy is an accelerated 3-year program. So you study full-time year-round for 3 years, which is not traditional in the United States. More traditionally, it's a 4-year program to finish your bachelor's. So it depends on what program you take for you to finish. What are some, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. What are some requirements for submission if I'm applying to the university that's relative to sculptures?
So if you are looking for more of the fine arts, so sculpture, painting, anything like that, what schools are really starting to accept now is photographs of your work. if you can do a 3D rendering of a sculpture that you have created, it would be very helpful, but no one's expecting you to, you know, hack up a huge sculpture and mail it. Photographs can be taken of paintings. Anything like that is really what they are looking for. I was just at, where was I? The Romanian Fine Arts Academy in Bucharest, and they took me on a whole tour of their facilities, and the whole reason that people got in was just photographs of the work that they had already created. So yeah.
And I think we have one more question from our advisor in the Philippines, Christine Grace.
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me? Okay.
I saw you.
Yeah.
Gave you a
Good.
presentation a couple hours ago.
I know. Thank you for joining. Yeah.
Sure.
So I have a question because in the past I've had advisees who were aspiring filmmakers. And
Okay.
then while they already had the outputs that they needed for their portfolio, they had additional experiences, like they shadowed photographers, directors, etc. And we didn't really know where to put it because they already had a strong essay and other requirements. So I just told them, okay, why don't we make a creative resume and all that? But then they asked me, what's like the standard for that? How do I make it eye-catching? Does it add any impact at all if I'm aiming for a merit-based scholarship? So I was just wondering if it weighs at all in the application process.
It absolutely can. If you have a creative CV that you have put together, it's very, very helpful for us to get an idea of who you are as an artist. If you are applying for a master's program, most of the master's program require a creative CV, but it's not going to make or break your admissions. I'm trying to think of how to word this. It won't make or break it, but it's going to weigh a little bit heavier, especially if we're looking at you for a talent-based award, which is going to be based off of your creative portfolio or your audition. For us to understand a little bit more the work that you've done, the studies that you have done, it can help to escalate tuition award discounts. When it comes to merit-based, for us, a merit-based is mostly based on GPA, but it's extremely helpful for us to understand that you have done some community work as well. So it will never hurt you to have a creative CV. There is really no standard of how it should be formatted. You're an artist, make it cool. That's what I would say. But it would never hurt. And if anything, you know, it's just an easier way to walk around the streets of Hollywood and passing out your resume.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That
You're
helps a lot.
welcome. Yep.
Hey, do we have any questions?
Beer, you had asked a question before. We got more about what are we doing right now. So New York Film Academy, for the fall semester, we are running a hybrid program. So it will be about 30 to 50% on campus, and the remaining will be via Zoom. It's going to be different in our locations. New York Film Academy has 3 locations in the United States: New York City, South Beach, Miami, and Los Angeles, California. New York City, we're starting on campus today. Today was the first day of class. So students will be half on campus, half via Zoom. California, because it's a different state, they are having to start fully on Zoom, but they will transfer to a hybrid model of education, hopefully within about a month. Again, all very much COVID dependent. But we do also have many students, international students, and I work only with international students who maybe were unable to get a visa, or there's no flights or anything like that. So we actually have students who are doing the first fall semester fully online from their home country. And it's actually really cool that the way that the classrooms work for those that are going to be on campus is you have a TA, a teaching assistant, who's in class who is wearing a GoPro. And so it looks a point of view that you're a student. And so they have earpieces in so you can ask them questions and they can show you something. So it's still very interactive, even if you're sitting in your apartment. And then hopefully by January, we can get everybody to come and study with us. If not, we have multiple online programs right now for short-term programs, weekend programs, evening programs. So there's a lot of online options as well. There's a question about minimum TOEFL or IELTS. For a bachelor's degree, the minimum TOEFL IBT is 68 or an IELTS of 5.5. So they're not extremely high. Again, it's a very hands-on film school, so you're not listening and sitting and taking notes for 2.5 hours. You're up and you're getting your hands on the equipment, so it's a little bit different. But we do also have a Pathways program that you can take, and we do have an ESL school as well if you're looking to just brush up on your English. So there's a very long question.
Some students, especially those from low-income families, may lack access to high-quality producing equipment and software. For them, it could be very time-consuming to produce any type of quality work. Do you take students' context and availability of resources into account when you evaluate student portfolios? And what recommendations would you give to aspiring artists and filmmakers with limited access to resources to demonstrate their fit?
It's a fantastic question. Again, we understand that not everybody is going to have a red Epic camera in their back pocket. So even if you're able to shoot on your phone and it may not be, you know, the iPhone 11, that's okay. What we're not looking for professional work. We're looking for your ideas more than anything. If you have no access to anything that can create films, start drawing, start writing. You know, more often than not, students have a camera in their pocket and just take pictures, you know, start writing poems. Any work that is going to show your creativity, your ideas, that's what people are looking for. Especially schools that have like a very large international student population. We are 50% international, so we very much understand students from multiple backgrounds. And I've had students who have submitted only photographs for filmmaking and have gotten very high talent-based awards. I've had students who have shot a whole film on an old Samsung camera, and we're not looking for you being able to shoot on a high quality camera. We're looking for you to be able to tell a story, and it doesn't matter how you tell the story. It's just the story that we're looking for. When the student starts their study, do they have their own high quality equipment? That's a very good question. New York Film Academy, you will pay an equipment fee as part of your tuition, and we are using the current industry equipment. So whatever they're using in Hollywood at the time, we have on our campus. New York Film Academy, with all 3 of our campuses in the United States, we have the largest inventory of equipment in the US. So you're not going to start right off of, you know, your first week, you're not going to be on a red camera, but you will work your way up to understand everything from cameras. You start with a DSLR, and then as you work further and further, you'll get to the high quality equipment. But everything that is used in New York Film Academy is currently being used on film sets around the world. Someone asked about dormitories for students. It's dependent on location. In New York City, we do have a dormitory that is 1 subway stop away from the school. It has single, double, and triple rooms, private bathroom, shared kitchen, shared living area. Again, it's 1 subway stop from the school, which is very nice. If this is Manhattan, New York Film Academy is at the very southern tip. We overlook the Statue of Liberty, and the dorms are just 1 subway stop away in Brooklyn Heights. And then in Los Angeles, we work very closely with apartment complexes that are within walking or bike riding distance to the school, and those are fully furnished apartments. But we do have a housing coordinator at all of our locations to assist with that whole process. Housing can be quite expensive in both locations, so you want to make sure that you're choosing the right location, the right size, so we have help for all of that. Do you have any special recommendations for personal essay statement for film art students? So you will have to write a statement of purpose, and really the statement of purpose is telling us why this is your dream. You know, why should we choose you? What makes you so special about art and your stories that you want to tell? So you can certainly bring in a background that is not artistic. I was a volleyball player, so I talked about volleyball when I was trying to get into school. But then I went on to costume design, and so you can express who you are, but more often than not, you want to really be talking about what makes you a unique candidate for whichever discipline you're interested in. But again, your background is who you are, so that's really what we would be looking for. Besides a 5-minute video, can I also send my outside curriculum work, such as drawings and critiques, part of my cinematography photo, to the school? Absolutely. Does not just have to be one piece of work. If you have done multiple mediums, whether it's, you know, drawings, photographs, scripts, submit it all. It's not going to hurt. You know, before you can submit all of this, you have to apply to a school. It's not just New York Film Academy. Every art school will require you to apply before they can look at your work. But you can certainly send in any work that you deem is high enough quality for you to be accepted, as well as be reviewed for a potential talent-based award. So yeah, start creating, bring it on. We want to see it.
Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so I think that's all for this session. Okay, so I hope everybody learned, you know, some good information about film and art school. And thank you so much, Lizzie, for being with us, for staying at night, talking to us over here in Asia.
I'm going to leave my email in the chat box. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to use it. What I will say, thank you so much for signing on and being interested in the arts. It's a very exciting time to be in the arts. I think, you know, for the past 6 months, all of us have just been sitting here watching movies. So the amount of production that's going to come soon is going to be quite a bit. And so everyone's going to be needed. So, you know, follow your hearts. Clearly, it's a very, you know, you only live once. So any questions you have, let me know. But yeah, we just, you know, pursue whatever you're passionate about. So.
And for those of you who might have questions, feel free to send your questions to Lizzie or to myself, and I can forward it to Lizzie. And also, this session is now recorded, and it's going to be reposted on our YouTube channel, so you can rewatch and rewind to any parts that you feel maybe unclear about. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you everyone. Stay safe. Have a fabulous day.
Stay safe, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Bye.
Lizzie.